Hello, gorgeous soul. Welcome to Susie's Enchanted Crossroads. I'm Susie, and this podcast helps you navigate your journey through the crossroads by taking a deeper look into witchcraft and spirituality. So settle in, grab your beverage of choice, and let's get this episode going. Hello, lovely listeners, amazing audience. How are you doing today? What's the vibe today? What's your energy? What's been going on? My beverage of choice today is coffee. Good old caffeine. Um, and like I said in my first episode, I just love just a hot drink. It's just, I don't know, it just makes me feel comfy and cozy. Episode number 2. Look at us doing the thing. I want to go ahead and I want to take this moment to shout out all of you out there listening at this moment. Thank you so much for, well, one, tuning in, taking time to listen um and really this is a time for yourself. You know what I mean? This is a time where we get to sit together and chit chat, even if you're chatting with me in your head. You know what I mean? You know we all do that. Thank you to my friends, my family, my followers. I big, big love to you all. Thank you so much for your support and your kind words and like hyping me up. Like I am amped up and it's not the caffeine talking. I feel so loved. I felt that virtual hug every time I got a notification when I dropped the sound bite to episode 1. Like, I did it. Here it is. And thank you to my newsletter, Coven. Also, I know you've been on this journey with me and being able to really be vulnerable in that space and you lovely readers taking the time to read and respond. I love it when you all respond. I love it. So shout out to my newsletter coven. If you're not part of it, it's totally free. I'll have all those links in the show notes also. But before I move on, just thanking y'all. I had been really working on this and I sat with it for a while. And basically, what I was writing in my newsletter was really going for it, but being very honest and saying that I was actually blocking myself without even knowing it. I was doing the blocking. And the way I was doing that was by saying and thinking that I couldn't do this. Oh, I'm not technology savvy. And as simple as that sounds, it really caused the blocks there. It really fed into my imposter syndrome. So when we have thoughts of I'm too old to start or who's going to listen to me? Who's going to read this? Who's going to look at this if I were to do it? Who am I to do this? Or even if someone maybe told you that narrative, maybe you were younger and it just made itself a little home in your brain there. And then you started speaking it and thinking it as a truth, you're mistaken. You have a talent or knowledge or whatever it is to be shared. Now, if you're shy, that's different, but if you're being holding yourself in a negative light, so to speak, because of what someone told you, or you're continuing to say that out loud, you're causing yourself a disservice. So, like, literally just go out and do it. I'm here, you're listening. Go do it. What is that thing that you always stopped yourself on? And I'm not saying that you're going to turn it into something of monetary value. That's not what I'm saying at all. Like, even if you just pick it up as a hobby, you're never too old. If you're tired of being at your job because of the toxicity, How are we changing that? How are you changing that? And I'm going to get into that later on in a later episode on manifestations. Susie, I've been manifesting, but it never comes true. This might be the first step is like you're blocking your own damn self. I mean, it happens. Also, are you manifesting and then just hoping the universe, just, you know, gift wraps it with a pretty bow and puts it at your front doorstep? That's not going to happen either. There are some things that you got to do also. There's some mundane work that you got to put in. Are you even updating your resume? If you're updating it, cool. Are you submitting it anywhere? Are you taking steps one and two, but you stop at three? So that's what I was actually discussing on with my newsletter Coven Peeps. I invite you to drop your email. So hit the show notes links down below. You just gotta scroll a little bit. And speaking of links, let me go over that as well. I have links that will take you straight to my website. If you're like, shoot, I've been wanting to do a reading. Let's do this. So you can book a tarot reading, you can book a Reiki session. If you are feeling a little overwhelmed and you're just like, oh, I don't know what I want, shoot me an email. Find me on Instagram, find me on TikTok, shoot me a message. Hey, Susie, I've never had any of this done ever before in my life. I don't even know what I need. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what questions to even ask. I've got you. And also, I will be addressing that in an episode as well. Okay, so um, let me write that down real quick because I'm one I need to write it or I need to type it out, right? In real time, you're listening to this. Okay. So yeah, newsletter, Coven, got all the links below. Also, I'd love you to pieces even more if you were to share this, leave a review, especially on Apple Pod. I know that it's very easy for podcasts just to get lost in the sea of all the podcasts that are available. So when you actually submit a review, Apple Pod's like, "Oh, hey, there's actually people that are listening to this." And it'll boost that up. So I would really appreciate that. And if you're listening, submit a review and maybe I can pull a free card for you. Yeah, let's do that. When you click the 5-star review, leave me a review, take a screenshot, and you can share it to your story. You can email it to me, and I'll get you a free card pull as a thank you. I appreciate. Um, let's see. Last time we left off, I had in passing had said that by the time y'all had listened to this, I would have already been doing or have done my community candle spell. It went so phenomenally well. And if you're just listening and you didn't listen to episode 1, I opened up a community candle spell for the new moon. And I was already going to do it for myself, and I thought, let me open this up. So for $5, you could submit your petition. I went on live on Instagram. I can't go live on TikTok just yet because I think you need like an X amount of followers where I haven't hit yet. But went to Instagram and I pulled a card, a tarot card and an oracle card for just to set the mood. And this is the energy that we're focusing on. It was so beautiful. I invite you to go to my page. They're on there, the lives. And I didn't read aloud the petitions. I just read aloud the names and set them aflame. Funny enough, my smoke alarm went off. So that was something. That was on me. Hello, I didn't have the fan on. And I did some Reiki energy to remove some blocks. Now, that particular petition is a 7-dayer. So I have my 7-day candle along with two pillar candles with sigils and herbs and all that good stuff. And I am posting uh, just the progress and reaching out to those that submitted their petition, no matter what it was. And that prompted me to say, you know what? I like this. I'm going to start offering this as a service. So if you missed it, don't worry. Don't worry. I've got you. I'm going to start opening that up. So maybe you have something coming up, something you want to release, whatever that moon phase is in, I will talk you through it. And for $5, I think it's a no-brainer in my eyes. Especially because the moon's energy can affect everybody differently. Some people might feel revved up, ready to go, doing all the things. And for others, it's pretty heavy. You feel tired. Maybe you're not resting well, the dreams are weird. So everyone is affected differently with the moon phases. So if that sounds like you and you want to do the things, but you just don't have the energy to do it, I've got you. I think this is a perfect thing for you to dip your toes in. All right. Let's go ahead and pull a card for the collective. And I noticed I said ASMR in my last episode, and this headset and mic are so good you couldn't even hear it. So you're probably like, I don't hear anything. So this is what you're hearing. You're hearing the cards. And what I'm doing is I'm shuffling. That way you know that I'm shuffling. I'm actually doing this in real time. So I just have the cards a little closer to the mic. So I invite you to take a deep breath in. Exhale out. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. It's nothing serious. I like to pull cards, and today I'm actually pulling an oracle card. Um, Never sponsored. If I am sponsored for anything, just know that I will say this is sponsored. Okay, I just like what I like. I purchase with my own money. So, the Modern Spiritual Latina Oracle. This is by Jasmine. She goes by Esoteric Essa. Message for the collective for today. Let's see, what does the collective need to hear today? Ooh, oh my goodness. So I like to pull for myself off mic. And yeah, this card is beautiful. The High Priestess, claircognizant, inner knowing, wise woman, the blood moon, intuition, womb wisdom. These cards are gorgeous, you guys. Like, don't take my word for it. You can look it up, the Modern Spiritual Latina Oracle. There is a blood moon. This looks like a moth, flowers. The cosmics are beautiful. Looks like a spell jar with a open book and an owl. And I am recording this video, and I don't know what I'm going to do with these videos yet, but maybe I'll put them on my YouTube. So I invite you to go follow me on YouTube, Susie's Enchanted Crossroads. And I'm just showing the card right here. The cards are gorgeous. And with the topic we're discussing today, yeah, this makes sense 100%. High Priestess is knowing. It's really looking deep within yourself and getting that inner knowledge, that ancestral knowledge, really going back into your roots is just so freaking wild because I was just on Voxer with my mentor and the other people in that group because I was looking at my book here, the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine, and I just happened to open the book and it was discussing about European colonizers. And here, I'll just take this excerpt right away, right quick. The first European colonizers in North America, arriving early in the 17th century, tended to dismiss indigenous American medical practices as nothing more than primitive savagery. So right away, I was like, of course they did. Of course they did. And I'm going to discuss that later, but really going back to my roots and practices that my ancestors did, right? And I think the high priestess as a whole, for all of us listening right now, is knowing that you're wise, is knowing that your intuition is there. And we've just been conditioned not to listen to our intuition, especially as women. And this claircognizant, we all have our clairs. It's like it's like working out. You got to work out the muscle in order for it to get strong. And I'm going to say this just out loud in the ethers because I'm actually going to post about it and ask people out there, but I'm going to mess this up. So let me look this up real quick. Of smells. So there's different clairs, and I do want to go over the clairs in another episode because I don't want this episode to be, 20 hours long. But let me see. What is it called when you associate things? So I'm getting a lot of smells. And not to say that they're weird smells or anything like that, but I will just pick up different scents, right? And I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into it, however, but I usually am clairaudient, so I can hear a lot of, things. And I was really working on that clair. And my clairs right now that I'm working on is really getting in touch with my psychic intuition. So I feel like this is just a reminder of how powerful we really are. And if we're not feeling that, when did we release that power to somebody? All right. Um, in this video, I talk a lot with my hands, so but if you're listening in, you don't have to worry about that. I like to read my notes. If I don't have notes, I get lost and I start to ramble. I have notes and I'm trying to figure out what I like better, notes on paper or the notes that I was typing out. And um, if you would like to further your research on any of these topics that I have, I do also link the websites where I was doing my research. Okay, so today we're discussing types of witches. What or who is considered a witch? So we're going to look a lot into the history of it and how it just kind of blew up all over social media, which is freaking amazing. I like it. I don't think it's anything we should gatekeep. I think we're all magical in our own way. I think with anything, you take things with a grain of salt and you do your own research. I know a lot of people just like to gung ho and just like go right in, but you gotta do your research on it. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna all of a sudden say, you know what? I really love planes. I'm gonna go fly one or I'm gonna go work on this aircraft. That's not how that works. I'd be looking at stuff I don't even know what I'm doing. So with that being said, being respectful of close practices and things like that. So, all right, let's start from the beginning, shall we? Being a witch is actually very, very misunderstood. It always has been. It was a way to really keep people in line, and by people, I mean women for the most part. And the earliest record of a witch comes from the Bible in the book of Samuel. The story is thought to be written between 931 BCE and 721 BCE. And this tells of King Saul, and he's seeking the witch of Endor to help him, defeat an army and all that stuff. The Old Testament condemns, most early witches, but they weren't really pagans. They were natural healers. They were wise women as, the high priestess card here, whose profession was misunderstood. It really was. And it became a dangerous time for witches. And I know right away you're going to say, Salem witch trials. Yes, you are correct in that aspect. But this witch hysteria began to really take hold in the mid 1400s. And this is where my research landed on this piece of history, right? And something that was published called the Malleus Maleficarum. And it was a book written by two German Dominicans in 1486. The book, which translates to The Hammer of Witches, was a guide to identifying, hunting, and interrogating witches. And get this, for more than 100 years, 100 years, it was the second highest selling book in Europe, trailing only behind the Bible. And it had deadly implications, you guys, as you can probably imagine, right? We can also think of another book that was published out in Europe that had dangerous implications. But between the years of 1500s and 1660s, up to 80,000 suspected witches were executed in Europe. 80,000 suspected witches were executed in Europe. These wise women, these healers, executed. And I'm going to go back to this book here, but as far as modern day witches, there there's a stigma, right? There's a stigma. We're trying to shake the historical stereotypes, because if you think of a witch, right, what do you think of right away? Maybe the Wizard of Oz, um, green, big nose, the warts, pointy hats. You think of Halloween, um, the cauldron, the cackle, and that was actually because of this book, had a lot of terrible, just the stereotypes. If you look at the physical features and who they were trying to like compare that to, terrible. So terrible. And in in modern day, we see witches, right, as um those that are rebellious. But witches were rebellious women in the past also. Because if you're not going to call a woman a bitch, the next thing you can call her is a witch, right? And it has right away, it's negative. Oh, they're casting spells and um oh, I did what I did because a witch cast a spell on me. And a lot of men would use that to their advantage to say, oh, I did what I did because I was under a spell. Okay. Um, Not taking ownership of their own actions. Um, and then we have I want to say this real quick in my notes as I see it. We have Wicca, right? Wiccans. And most of that is in the Western world practice, but it is officially a religion in the United States and Canada. I'm not Wiccan. I don't know. Well, I guess I don't have a lot of friends in that are Wiccan, but from what I read, Wiccans avoid evil. Their motto is harm none. So if you've heard that, harm to none, or the threefold rule, is because they strive to live peaceful lives in nature and in humanity. But then it starts to get mixed up with this love and light. And this love and light only talk is very toxic, very, very toxic, where you don't really stand up for yourself. You're kind of forced to think of only positivity and only the light part of things when there's the shadow aspect too. And addressing your shadow self and doing the shadow work is very important. Very, very important. What the love and light is causing now is to slap a band-aid on a gaping wound, right? You need to heal that. You need to heal the trauma or whatever has triggered you instead of just doing love and light. But we'll get into that at a later time. So before we get into, well, actually, let's take a sip, take a breath, right? That was a lot of information. Take a sip of whatever you got in front of you, because I'm about to get into this book. And again, I'll reference it, but you can literally Google it. This Malleus book. All right, so let me scroll up because I want to make sure I get the name right. All right, so this work was written by Kramer and Springer, and it is a detailed legal and theological document, 1486, as I said, and it was regarded as the standard handbook on witchcraft, including its detection, and until well into the 18th century. It's a it appeared and did so much work for 2 centuries of witch hunting, and that's what sparked the witch hunting hysteria in Europe. All right, so as I said, um, so Springer was the dean of a university in Germany, and Kramer was a professor of theology at a university in Austria. And in 1484, Pope Innocent VIII deplored the spread of witchcraft in Germany and authorized Springer and Kramer to move forward and push on this book, which makes sense because if it's one of the top selling books alongside with the Bible, and we're trying to get rid of witches and witchcraft, yeah, that tracks. Under the Pope, that tracks. So the Malleus codified the folklore and beliefs of the Alpine peasants and was dedicated to the implementation of Exodus 22:18. You shall not permit a sorceress to live. The work is divided into 3 parts. Okay, so part 1, the reality and the depravity of witches is emphasized. And any disbelief in demonology is condemned as hearsay. Heresy. Because of the nature of any witness, no matter what his credentials, keyword there, may testify against the accused. So a lot of this, if you go back to like the Salem witch trials and any other, obviously, witch hunt, a lot of people were accused because somebody was greedy. Somebody wanted your land. And the best and easiest way to get that is to accuse you of witchcraft. Especially women, if they were widowed, and inherited the land from family or the the recently deceased husband. Greedy ass people would look to that and be like, this woman has land. What is she going to do with it? I want that. And how can I attain that? Oh, I'll just call her a witch. She probably put a spell on her husband, and that's why he died. She's cooking up spells. Very, very, very dangerous because, I mean, no matter what your credentials are, you can testify against the accused and just basically lie. All right, part two. So there were fabulous stories about activities of witches. Okay, and I'm going to list these activities as it states. For example, diabolic compacts, sexual relations with devils, night riding, metamorphosis. So a lot of folklore here, okay? Part three is a discussion of legal procedures to be followed in the witch trials. All right. So, all right, you've been accused as a witch, you went to trial, people, testified against you, you're a witch. All right, cool. You lose everything. Torture is sanctioned as a means of securing confessions. So authorities are called upon to assist the inquisitors in the task of exterminating those whom Satan has enlisted in his cause. And in just like the way the Salem witch trials had begun, when you're torturing somebody, you can get a false, I- in, I'm just remembering a story from what I did in a previous episode. Um, when you're torturing somebody and they confess, even though it wasn't true, it's just heartbreaking. Especially to know that this person that is helping with the torture knows that they're lying and still torturing this person to get them to confess to something they've never done. Wild. All right, the Malice went through 28 editions between 1486 and 1600 and was accepted by Roman Catholics and Protestants alike as an authoritative source of information concerning Satanism and as a guide to Christian defense. And this is I'm getting information here from Britannica. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And then, we get into what is Satanism, and how it's associated with witchcraft and how it really isn't. We get into satanic panic and, modern Satanism. And I will tell you right now, between that and Christianity, Satanism and Christianity, Satanism also started, as a bad rap, getting a bad rap. And we fear what we don't know. And a lot of this was to put fear in people, right? Don't do this. Don't believe in this. But in actuality, Christianity began by stealing um, ideas and celebrations from natives to the land, pagans. Just like, if you participate in Christmas and you have a Christmas tree in your house and you think of the Yule log, that is something that, the Catholic Church took from the pagans and then put it as itself. Hello, we're getting ready to go into Easter, Ostara, and I think I'm going to do an episode on that. a lot of that was stolen from pagan beliefs and celebrations. So if we look at witches and witchcraft and Satanism, it's we're breaking away from that. We're rebelling against it. It's not right. But when you're outnumbered and you're being executed by the tens of hundreds and oh my goodness, of, of, of course, out of fear, you're going to say, okay, yes, I believe in this. It's very, very, very sad. I'm glad I started with that and I continued. Um, I do want to invite you to read The Untold Story of Dorothy Good. And I probably will touch on this story at a later time when we start getting into the Salem witch trials. But Dorothy Good was actually Salem's youngest accused witch. And I'm going to take a pause here. Don't Google it. How old do you think Little Miss Dorothy Good was? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? So, the Salem witch trials of 1692 are remembered today as the most infamous witch hunt in North American history. 19 people were hung, one man was tortured to death, and at least five died in prison. Between 150 and 200 were arrested. And they're all heartbreaking stories, all of them. But Little Miss Dorothy Good is very, very tragic. If you guessed 4 years old, you are right. Dorothy was the youngest person arrested during the Salem trials at 4 years old. Now, we've come a long way, right? We understand a lot of a lot of diseases that come about, emotional traumas, birth defects, all those things. But I will just kind of leave this here. And if you would like to read up on it, I do invite you. I will link one of the articles here. It's called The Untold Story of Dorothy Good, Salem's Youngest Accused Witch. Um, I can't find the author right at this moment, but it is a beautifully written article, a lot of good information here. So I do invite you to read that when you're ready. I will probably circle back to this when we start discussing the Salem witch trials. All right, so we've discussed what a witch is and the negative connotations that came with it, the stereotypes, um, and how it's really a big thing, especially on TikTok, right? There's witch talk, and we had some. I think there's going to be bad eggs everywhere, right? There's going to be some bad apples in every single thing. So as long as you really feel and you're going forward with curiosity, which is why I wanted this podcast, and we're really diving deep into spirituality and witchcraft to find what you are comfortable with and what you want to practice, and making sure that you're being respectful of cultures and practices that are closed and not everything that you're picking up is earn a to earn a buck, right? Taking advantage of people. So let's go ahead and switch gears. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a stretch. Go ahead and give yourself one too. Whew, that was a little heavy, a little bit heavy there, right? And I want to go ahead and shout out my hubby and my kiddos that helped me put this, well, I didn't do anything. Help me. I I helped the flashlight. But I got a new chair. I love this chair. You can sit crisscross in this chair. It is amazing. So, um, I feel so comfy and cozy. You should have seen the chair I was working with before. Okay, different types of witches. Here we go. And this I am reading some notes in case I don't want to skip around. And I'm sure there's probably even more than the ones I even have listed. Um, so if you are a witch or practicing and none of this resonates with you, I want to hear from you. Like what do you do? Like I said, I'm an eclectic witch. I feel it gives me the freedom I need, and I'm just like that. Jack of all trades and what is that saying? Jack of all trades and I know you're shouting at me. Master of none. But I just feel like there's no rules when you practice as an eclectic witch. There's guidelines, and I just feel like all of these things call to me. So, anywho, um, so you might have heard things like you're a green witch, you're a hedge witch, a kitchen witch, eclectic witch. Um, but what does that really mean? Okay, so who practices these types of witchcraft? So there's so many. So let's see here. We can start with an eclectic witch, like I said. Um, our path is usually our own. We have freedom to practice. I don't really have set traditions. It's it's like a little hodgepodge of everything, like a little quilt with a bunch of different things on it. And I dip my toes into everything, right? Spiritual and occult. And I mean, I do Reiki, different magical practices like, divination and kitchen witchcraft and all that good stuff. So, there's an ancestral witch, which communicates with the ancestors. They heavily rely on their ancestors' guidance and protection in aid in magical workings, which I do as well. I always call in my spirit team and my ancestors for help and guidance and protection. But they honor it just year round on the daily. And at least in my Hispanic culture, I know we do Dia de los Muertos, but not to say that we don't speak to our ancestors all the time, but that is just a day that we really honor them. But that's ancestral witches. And then this one I found new, which was an angel witch. So reminiscent of magical workings found in ancient grimoires, the Golden Dawn and thematic practices, an angel witch is one that invokes, communicates, and works with angels. Sometimes the angels are the witch's spirit guides, which is beautiful. I think as I grew up Catholic, I really did look into angels for protection and guidance as well as the saints. So other times they are angels that the witch has vivid and visceral experiences with, which is very, very beautiful. So angel witches cultivating a deep relationship with an angel in their practice. We got ceremonial witches, which is ceremonial witchcraft, a blend of aspects of low magic and high ritual magic. Okay, so what I did on Sunday was a candle ritual spell, right? So these are highly structured rituals and magical practices if you are a ceremonial witch, and hats off to you because those take a lot of energy. You can be a star witch or a cosmic witch, where you're working with the cosmos and celestial energies. Um, I think this might be a little bit different from the lunar witches. Um, this is like your zodiac and going into astrology, um, and really using it in your spell castings and your sigils and all that stuff in your practice. And then we got a crystal witch. Okay. So crystal witch is one that works with stones of healing, energy work, and magic. I love crystals. I've always collected rocks as a kid, and same with like looking up to the stars. I've always been into like reading the horoscope. So a crystal witch will have an extensive knowledge in or deep interest into stones and crystals. We've got a dream witch, so dream work. I am always in awe of people that really dive into dream work. I love it. So my hat's off to them too. Anyone can astral project, but really going into like the symbolism of a dream, amazing. There's elemental witches, which work really, really closely with nature in the elements, obviously, right? Earth, air, fire, water. So I think even if you are a kitchen witch, I think we're all elemental witches because we work with the elements. Whether you're looking to astrology, you're a hedge witch, what did I just say right now? Crystal witch. I think that all integrates very, very beautifully together. I mean, as witches, we work with, the water and the earth and the air and the fire. I mean, we call in, right, the energy, um, and as well as spirit. And here's one that I never really heard really specifically was energy witch. So the energy witch is one who has a firm grasp of energy manipulation. This witch does not need to rely upon the physical tools and supplies witches usually use in their spell casting. Instead, they use the power of their minds and the energy in their bodies. They may also use divine energy that they draw down from source, as well as energies drawn from planets. This type of witch is also known as a mental as this type of witchcraft is also known as mental magic. So I thought that was very interesting. I would love to know if you are an energy witch. I know that when I do Reiki, that's energy, but I've never really used the planets in that. At least I don't think I have. I'm going to be calling on Pluto, you know what I mean? And you know what? Maybe I'm lying. Um, because I do associate the planets with the days of the week. So, okay, maybe I just told a little fib there. I didn't even know it. Okay, moving on, we have green witch or a hedge witch, right? And that's also linked to like kitchen magic, kitchen witchery, and nature and elemental witchery. And green witches are deeply connected to earth and its energy, drawn to plants and trees and flowers. Um, they're botanicals, and this is where I love it too. And my mom, I know, is a green witch because a green thumb, me, sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. Just so I don't quite have a black thumb, although sometimes I'm like, damn, I need some work on this. But I love to get the herbs and make oils and bath salts, foot soaks. Oh, I just love that. And just to have a full garden. When I watch TikTok, oh my gosh, and I see people with these gardens and their farms. I love it. I can just go there. These witches may be herbalists and healers. Um, and they use their botanicals to cast their spells. So I do use that as well. This is different. Hedge rider. A hedge rider is a highly psychic witch who journeys through the veil to the other side through a practice commonly called as hedge jumping. Hedge witches can communicate with the spirit world through astral projection, trance, and divination. They use special flying ointments to help shift their consciousness so they may cross to the other world. Some even say the witch's actual spirit is what crosses over while their body remains tethered to the physical plane. A big part of hedge riding is being a master diviner. Some may also be healers of spirit versus healers of the physical body. That is super cool. Super, super cool. So, um, I know that witches flying on their broomstick was said because they were taking ingesting their herbs so that that way they can I guess like psychedelics so that way they can go between the physical world and the spiritual world. But please, 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 I need to preface this. Don't ingest things that you don't know what they do. Okay, please do your research when ingesting or burning any herbs, and then crystals on top of that. Not all crystals can go in your water. I know that was a huge like fad of, putting crystals in your water bottles and then you're drinking it. A lot of those crystals are not water friendly, so please do your research. I should have prefaced that, but you know. I'm telling you now. Kitchen witch, a hearth witch, cottage witch, and a tea witch. Oh, I love a good tea. If you cook, you're probably a kitchen witch. So these are very home-centric individuals, extremely nurturing. They love to make their home a special and sacred place. For this witch, home is their sanctuary and welcome into it any kind heart and intent. So, when people's like just are like, oh, this dish, if someone creates it for you, maybe a family member, like your grandma only makes this, this dish tastes just different from anywhere else. And it's like, oh, it's that love, it's that magic put into it, right? It's that time um put into it where this food is going to be given and received by somebody else that just loves it. So, um it's also about cleaning and home repairs and improvements, along with hobbies and crafts done with magical intent in the home. So, when you're making your teas, maybe you're crocheting. This is you're probably a hearth witch. We have a hereditary witch. Um, so magic and practices are unique to each family and are passed down from generation to generation. However, a hereditary witch may work with their own individual practices and conjure with or instead of their families. So being born into the craft does not automatically make a person a witch. Practicing witchcraft is what makes a person a witch. I love that. That was very beautiful. Lunar witches, obviously those that work with the moon, probably use the triple moon um, symbol as well, mixing and associating with feminine energy, psychic powers. I love that. We have the nature witch, which obviously is what it sounds like, working with the elements. Nature witches also can, besides using the elements, fairies, um, things like that are examples of nature spirits that maybe this nature witch would work with. Um, we have secular witches, which cast spells without attaching spirituality to their practice. For some, their interest is only in magical aspects of witchcraft. Secular witches can be very spiritual outside their magical practice. Okay, keeping both practices completely separated. So, um, specifically, the magic of secular witches relies upon their energy and power and magical correspondences they are using. So, deities, angels, spirit guides are not called upon as they are spiritual beings. So, secular witch. And then As I said before, you can be a Wiccan witch. Okay, Wicca is a neo-pagan, earth-centric practice of witchcraft. So normally, Wicca and witchcraft are two separate paths. So to be a witch does not mean you are Wiccan, and just because you are Wiccan doesn't mean you are a witch. I know that sparked a heated debate on witch talk because some witches and spiritualists were really talking about, hexing and um, things like that, right? And people were like, oh, it's going to come back to you tenfold and, all this stuff. But that is a Wiccan practice. That does not mean that every witch practices Wicca. So, I would like to hear from you. Okay, this this was just like I mean, it was a pretty big list, but just to let you know that I feel like with lists like this is furthers my what I would say to anybody is that you yourself are magical. What you do can be a magical practice. 100%. So if none of these apply to you or you dabble in all of them, but there's something that wasn't um, stated or said, I would love, 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 love to hear from you. Okay, I think I'm gonna end this and gift wrap this up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to really set off the pod with obviously who I am, right? And what this podcast is about. But if you were at the crossroads of, man, what even is a witch? I've heard only negative things, or I heard you have to be in Wicca in order to be a practicing witch. I felt like this was a really good, strong foundation to start with. And maybe get a little bit curious. So, if you love to bake, how can you really put some intention while you are baking that cake? Especially maybe if it's a birthday cake. I mean, that's spell work right there. And when you're creating that from start and the finish of blowing out the candle, what is the intention? What are you using? What type of cake is it? So if you're doing, I don't know, a chocolate cake, I would maybe Google chocolate, what is what does chocolate bring in, right? Sugar. What are the magical spiritual correspondences to sugar? Bring in sweetness, bring in abundance. We can apply our craft in anything, anything. Even when we go and we take a shower, right? And sometimes you have to wash off the day. Well, as you're washing off the day, really envision as the water hits the top of your head that any negative energy or whatever happened is really not just washing off your physical body, but envisioning that as that water is hitting, right, the top of your head and flowing all the way down to the drain, so does that nasty negative energy of whatever the day brought you goes down the drain. And as you use your soap, your body wash, what kind of scent are you picking up? Is it eucalyptus? Something calming? So as you're washing off the day, you're bringing in with that eucalyptus a sense of calm, release, instead of that negativity. You can really, really, really use the craft in any aspect. Take a look at what you're wearing right now. What color is your shirt? And go ahead and pop in color magic. Color magic for lime green, which is what I'm wearing right now, lime green. See what pops up. I'm telling you, magic is everywhere. We just need to learn and harness it, and that's what I'm here to help you do. So, yes, I'm going to hit you with some history. I think it's very important. We got to learn it, okay? And then we move forward. So, here's your task, okay? If you choose to receive it. Um, what do you love most? What is your hobby? What would you like to get into? Or what are you already into that you can start maybe the foundation of stepping up in the craft? Maybe you're a fantastic gardener. What does that bring you? Joy? Peace? Maybe it's a time where you can actually hear yourself think. Maybe you feel connected to the water and you just feel a sense of release when you hear a river flowing or hearing the waves gently lapping. Maybe after you do whatever it is that you feel so comfortable and connected with, your nervous system relaxes. Maybe you have the best night's sleep. Maybe that's when you start seeing synchronicities. Maybe those are messages. So I would love to hear from you. You can shoot me an email at susiesenchantedcrossroads@gmail.com. Like I said, you can visit me on my socials. On Instagram, I'm Susie's underscore enchanted underscore crossroads. It wouldn't let me put it all together for whatever reason. And on TikTok, I'm enchanted crossroads because did you know that there's a letter limit? Wild. And yeah, shoot me a message. I would love to hear from you. Book a session, book a reading. This podcast is for you. As much as it is, I get the joy of talking to you and doing research. I really want to hear from you. And don't forget about that 5-star review. Send it to me and you get that little special something. And until then, I will see you at the crossroads.